So now to heat treat the knives, I'm going to be heating them up to a critical temperature, which is the temperature at which they no longer stick to a magnet, and then I'm going to quench them in some motor oil. So while I was forging these two blades, both of the ends snapped off, and so these are just going to have to be shorter knives. So after the heat treat, I know that these knives are hard because if I take a file and scrape it on the blade, the file just skates right off. But if I do it on the tang, you can hear that it's grabbing into the steel and scratching it, and it's the same thing on this one. File just skates right off, so I know that it's hard. And on the tang, it's grabbing into it, and it's really hard, and it's not hard to file. And so now I just need to clean off the scale, and so I can see the tempering colors when I'm tempering it. So now, as you can see, the mill scale on the blade has been cleaned off, and now I can see the tempering colors much better. I'm going to be putting these in my oven for around an hour at 400 degrees. So the reason why we temper the blades is because it softens them back just a little bit so that they're not too brittle. After the tempering process, they should be the color gold. So for this knife blade, I'm going to be making a black and red HDPE handle, and so the first step in that process is to get a tube to heat up the HDPE in. In this case, it's going to be copper because copper has a high melting point. Now we need to smash one end of this tube so that the plastic doesn't leak out one side when I'm melting it. I know that I've smashed the end pretty good because when I filled it up with water, there's hardly any water dripping out the end. This means that it should contain HDPE much better since HDPE is much more viscous. Here's the HDPE I'm using. I got this HDPE from containers that had the HDPE symbol on the bottom. Here's what that symbol looks like. I'm going to be putting the HDPE in, alternating colors every time. So now that the tube is almost full, I'm going to heat it up one more time and then put in the knife. So this is what the knife looks like after it's been taken out of its case, and right now there's a lot of these bubbles in it, so I'm just going to fill those in with some extra plastic that I have. Now the holes are covered up, so now I just need to shape the handle. So I didn't get it on tape, but I put a layer of epoxy on top of the plastic. So now that I've achieved 1000 grit finished on the blade right here, I'm going to be taking the buffing tool for the Dremel, and then I'm going to be spraying it up, applying some buffing compound, and then I'm going to be applying it to the blade, and hopefully this will give it a mirror reflective finish. So after the polishing, here's what the blade looks like. Now I'm going to be using my Lansky sharpener to sharpen it, and I'm starting out with a 120 grit coarse stone. So this blade is now finished now that it's been sharpened. Let's see if we can carve a spear from this piece of dry hardwood.